Hey, it's Greg here with Outdoors on the Cheap, and I thought I'd do a video giving a little bit of straight talk on Silky saws. Very popular bushcraft and survival type saw. There's other saws that are popular too, like the Baco Laplander, for instance. I've been using these for years. I had a Baco once, I lost it. I like that as well. But I thought I'd just talk about this, a little bit of straight talk about folding saws in general and the Silky in particular. Why I like it, but also what I think is flawed about it. So really, when you're thinking of which Silky to buy, you've got different sizes, and there's many more models than what I'm showing here. This is the Big Boy, Gum Boy 240, and the Pocket Boy. I think this is, what size is this? Pocket Boy 130. Okay, Pocket Boy 130. And you can see the tip of that's broken off. So, number one. Which one do I tend to take in the woods with me? I take this one. This is my go-to saw. Generally speaking, I'm going in the woods or I'm hunting or fishing or whatever, and I bring my general kit. I tend to have a pretty good solid knife. I bring a pocket knife, usually a multi-purpose Swiss Army knife type thing. And then I bring a saw. And then with those things, I figure I can handle just about anything I need in the cutting and processing wood department. That's a whole nother argument. We can go on that forever. This video is not about that. Okay, just talking about if you're the type of person that likes to bring a folding saw with you in the woods, and you're thinking about the Silky, this video is about that. So, size recommendation, you could bring this. There's an even larger one, I think, called the Katana, or something like this, like the Big Boy. These are backpack saws. You can't really carry it on your person in a meaningful way. I'm sure there's some way you can rig up some sort of sling, or if you've got a side pocket in your pants that's big enough, I suppose you could slide it into there. But really, this is a backpack saw. And this is for if you're going out to maintain a trail you've got in the woods, or you're going out for multiple days and you know you're going to be needing to cut a lot of wood. I bring something like this. But for just going out fishing, hunting, hiking, whatever, and you want to bring something along just in case you get into a situation, then it's really up to the Gum Boy or the Pocket Boy. And I think there's even one that's kind of in between, a little bit, different lengths. For me, there's a Gum Boy 210, and I think there's a Gum Boy 240. I like the Gum Boy 240. It's just a good all-around blade. I've got trails, hunting trails basically, in this forest here. Kilometers of them that I've cleared, just enough to get through. They're indistinguishable from a deer trail, other than the brush line is high enough for a 6-foot-tall human being. But I cleared them all with one blade on this particular saw. So I like it. I find this Pocket Boy, if I'm going snaring, I might bring this, but I generally tend to bring this, because if I'm going along a trail that I normally walk on and there's something that's fallen down and it's in the way, I can't deal with it with this thing. If you're maintaining it, if you're in the woods on trails you keep, which is what I tend to do. I'm usually hunting or on my way to a place I go fishing, going through the woods, and something falls down, a tree falls down across the trail, you're not going to be dealing with it with one of these. You're going to be using one of these. Okay. Now let's talk about cutting. The reason I like the Silky over many other saws, I like that it cuts on the pull. You use a bigger set of muscle groups to cut on the pull than you do on the push. You're less likely to bend and break a blade if you're putting a lot of energy into the pull, and these are designed for that sense. So they're kind of a lighter, thinner blade. Thinner blades cut better as well. And the idea is that it's not going to bend up, bind up, and break, because you're applying force on the pull, and then you're just pushing sort of gently and easily, and so on. Okay. That said, these break. Here's one I broke this year, right, from this saw. They break, right? In that situation, I had a downed tree, and I wanted to move it out of the way off a trail, and there was a branch going to the ground, and I was cutting on top of the branch, but there was load on that branch. I should have been cutting underneath. I just wasn't thinking. I was hiking and I was tired and I was disoriented. Everything goes wrong when you're out of breath and you're disoriented and there's something you're just trying to do in a rush. I wasn't thinking. So I was cutting on a branch that was down like this, and as soon as I got through enough of it, it binded up. So even though I wasn't pushing hard, I was just, basically push easy, pull hard, push easy, pull hard. On one of those pushes, all of a sudden the whole thing binded up on the tip and it broke right off. And this one had bent a number of times, and when a Silky saw blade bends, you really can't bend it back true. It's whatever the the properties of the metal. A very hard metal keeps a really good edge, great for cutting. All of those great properties. It makes it so that if it gets a bend in it, the bend never really come out, and you can break it. With discipline and practice and getting used to cutting on the pull, it's less likely, but if you do something stupid like I did, you will break your blade. Now, on the bright side, you can get backup blades for these and that sort of thing, and it's handy to have a second one of those in your kit. And then also, if you do break the blade, it's still usable, right? You can still cut stuff with a blade this long, right? This is basically the length of a pocket boy, so it's not like I lost everything, right? But that is the main drawback of the gum boy, is that if you're not watching what you're doing, or you're just not experienced or whatever, you can break the blade. It can happen. And you can bend the blade if you're in a rush or you're not thinking about what's going on, that sort of thing. And you don't understand about how, branches can bend, loads can be in a branch, and they can pinch off and catch the blade and bend it on the push. So that is a flaw of the gum boy. Other than that, another thing I want to talk about is just, in general, I don't understand why manufacturers make them like this. They'll make a knife that they call a saw, as some sort of outdoor saw, survival saw, whatever, right? Or even you'll see bushcraft and survival experts, instructors, and so on and so forth, and they're using equipment like this. This is really easy to lose, right? The great thing about the Silky, and I bought this one on sale, so I got it the color it was, but if you go on Amazon, you look around, or other sellers, you can find them with a yellow handle, something bright. The Baco Laplander I owned, I bought the same one that I saw some guy using on YouTube. It was green with a black blade. What could be easier to lose in an environment like this? Everything here is green and black. Every shadow is black and everything's green. So, you lay your... The thing about any piece of equipment for survival gear is you are going to lay it down. Okay? I don't care how fastidious you are, how anal retentive, how disciplined you are, and with your kit, man, you're going to lay stuff down. I mean, that's why, even though I always put this knife back in my sheath, right? You notice I've got the tip here painted red. It's going to get laid down. It's just going to happen. Like you work on your discipline and you work on remembering to do things, and you get a system that's reliable, but you're going to lay stuff down. And I don't care how good a folding saw is, if you lay it down and use it, if you lay it down and lose it, it's useless, right? So I would never get one this color again. You notice I put this high visibility, and it's got a kind of reflective stuff too, so even at night it would pick up the light of a flashlight. I've got this little tiny lanyard on here, not because it can be handy also for losing it in the snow, that sort of thing. You drop it down, you drop something in deep snow, it's gone forever, so it's handy to have a little bit of a lanyard. But really, the first thing you do when you get something like this should be to paint it with some high visibility paint. Get a little tiny can of Trimclad or whatever, high visibility paint, yellow or orange, right? And you just, yes, you're going to mess up your gear and it's not going to look pretty anymore, right? But I'd rather have it like that and not lose it. So, the one recommendation I would give is that if you're going to get a Silky, that you either pick one with a handle. It's got a, like this one here I bought with a good, this is a good color. You don't see this color in the woods. Nothing in the woods is this color. You want something unnatural and bright that stands out. So when you set it down, you walk away, you come back looking for it, your eyes naturally find it because it stands out, right? This sort of thing, you see this, if it's down like this, it's going to disappear, right? Because this color here is kind of flat black, is pretty hard to find, right? Same thing goes for knives. I don't know why they make survival knives with wooden handles. I mean, they should be orange or yellow or red, something unnatural. Another thing about the Silky that you learn over time, all of them have one end like this. I mean, they're very well made saw. They're, you know, it's like solid steel. There's no plastic mechanism. That's another thing I like about them. There's a spring here, but it's a beefy, you know, the mechanism that locks it open, it's beefy and it's stainless steel and it's got a nice heavy spring. It's got an extra setting like this, but I've never used that. I have no idea what that setting's for. If anything, I'd want a setting where it you know, closes like that a little bit. But anyway, you've got two ends. You've got this end and you've got this end. Okay. Now normally I've got a kind of pants on where I've got a long pocket on the side, and I like to slide this down into the long pocket. Okay. If you slide it down this way, this edge, it's got a sharpness to it. It's got like a hockey skate. Okay. And it's got a bit of a grabby thing here. It will, over time, make a hole in that pocket, and you'll go for it, and it's gone because it's fallen out of your pants. Right? So, or if you're putting it in your back pocket, if you've got a long, deep back pocket that's at least more than half the length of this, you can stick it in a back pocket, and it'll work like that. But if you stick, and you're going to tend to stick it with this end down because you don't want to grab this because it's a bit sharp and feels weird, and this is the heavier end. So generally speaking, you want to put the heavy end down because it's more likely to stay in a pocket. Right? You put it down this way, it cuts a hole. You put it this way, and now you've got this sharp thing rubbing against your body or whatever. It doesn't feel natural, and it wants to tip out, right? Because this is the heavier end. Okay, so the solution for that is, you know, just get a backup buff. One of these neck things that you can put on your ears, on your head. You can use them for lots of different things, or just a handkerchief, and you just wrap it around this sharp end, and you can put the sharp end down in your pocket. That's the only, other than making a purpose-built sheath for this, which I really don't think is necessary, right? It's always handy to have a handkerchief or some sort of extra buff or whatever in the woods with you. So for me, I just wrap it and I stick it down that way. And that way you're not going to get a hole in your pocket, and the thing isn't going to be vanished when you absolutely need it. Okay? The other catch is that with these, if this, I mean, they're very easy to replace the blades, but if this gets loose, you can have this sitting upside down in your pocket and this can come open, and you go to grab it and you cut yourself real bad, right? And a saw edge will give you a cut that does not heal nice, right? Because it's a messy, jagged cut. So you constantly have to be managing this. Now, thankfully, there's all kinds of, you know, any pocket knife, any survival knife, anything you have, it should be able to fit in there, and you can tighten it up a little bit. It's not a great thing to do with your knife, but you know, you can get by. And if you've, it's a good reason to always have a good pocket knife with a couple tools on it, like a kind of basic screwdriver, flat-headed screwdriver. The Swiss Army knife I tend to use, I'll put a picture of it on the screen. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, it's got like a common screwdriver. It's even got a Phillips on it, so it's handy for things like this. You constantly have to maintain this to keep it. It's got a spring and it will hold position, but from time to time it will loosen over time, and you don't want that knife loosening up while it's in your pocket, because then you reach down and cut yourself real bad. All right, so that's pretty much all I got to say about the Silky, aside from the fact that I think they cut the best. Okay, now, you know, this is a common theme on a lot of my videos, where I'll make a comment about something and people say, well, it's all about personal preferences, whatever you like, and all this sort of stuff. There's no right answer and all this sort of stuff. To some extent that's the case, but if you're gearing your kid up to go in the woods for a 3-day overnight trip with a buddy, you're not going to say to the kid, oh, you just bring whatever you want. Doesn't matter, it's all about, no, you're going to give them the stuff that you think is going to last, it's going to be rugged, it's going to be reliable, and it's going to handle most of the stuff that they're going to have to handle. Okay, so there kind of is an answer, and it's not all personal preference. I agree that the gear you bring might be relative to what you're actually doing, that sort of thing. It's a whole nother topic. Okay, but there is a kind of best thing, mostly best thing, not the best, but like most best in most situations most of the time. Okay, so you know, people will say there's no right answer. Well, there's an answer that's mostly right most of the time in most ways. Mostly. If that makes any sense. Okay, so the challenge with something like a Gumboy versus a Laplander Baco is that the I was looking on the internet this morning about broken Baco Laplander blades. I couldn't find anything. I mean, I was looking around, and I mean, you'd think someone would talk about it if it was a problem. There's plenty of videos about broken Silky blades because they break. Right? If you use them the wrong way, they'll break. Okay? So, if you have a novice who doesn't use a lot of saws, especially a young teenager who tend to act first and think later, you know, it's probably better to give that person a Baco. It's cheaper than these. These are expensive. Even the replacement blade. Replacement blade is about 80% of the cost of the whole damn thing. It's kind of ridiculous. Overpriced replacement blade, in my opinion. If you have a teenager or it's a gearing up a novice or that sort of stuff, I don't think I'd give them one of these. I'd give them something like a Baco Laplander. Those will bend. They cut more. They cut both ways, right? But they don't cut as well. This, if you got two people and they're trying to cut a whole bunch of wood, and they're in a race to see who can cut the most wood, and let's say they've got equal strength, equal skill, equal experience, I think the person with this is going to cut more. I've used these enough, and I've used other saws enough to know that these things cut really well. There's something ergonomic about cutting on the pull, and it's the quality and the sharpness of the blade, and just the design of this particular, this is the coarse blade, I believe. These cut extremely well. So the energy you have to put into cutting with one of these, I would say is less than that of many other saws, including the Laplander. Okay, but you can break them. It's something you always have to be thinking about. Am I going to break this thing, right? So I would, if you were gearing up a novice, I'd give them something. I would not give them one of these. Okay, if you're experienced and you want to learn about wood and how it works and all that sort of stuff, bring one of these. It's still possible, like I did this year at 51 years of age, you screw up, you get overconfident, or you're just not, you know, thinking straight, and you cut something and put way too much force on it when you should be going easy, or cutting upside down, right? Because you know it's going to bend up this way. You just do something stupid. It only takes a second, and now you've got a broken blade. And now your gum boy is a pocket boy because the blade's this long. Another great advantage of these is, while they are a great bushcraft and survival tool to have in the woods, they're also great for around the house because you can get different blades. Okay, so this is a finer blade, and this is actually a 210, but it fits in this just fine. Okay, so you can use the handle for different sizes, right? The 210 or the 240 will both fit a gum boy 240 handle. But you can have one of these finer blades, and you can see the difference. So for one saw, you can almost have like two functionalities, right? You can use something like this for pruning around the house. I've got a large garden, I've got fruit trees and that sort of thing, and this finer blade will make a cleaner cut on a tree, less risk of disease and that sort of stuff. So if you're thinking about getting one saw to do more than one thing, this also makes an excellent pruning saw if that's important to you. It is to me, and this is the saw I use for pruning in my garden and in my fruit trees and around the property, for that matter. So that is a degree of functionality. But yeah, in terms of the question of which tool would I bring, let's say I was being dropped off from a helicopter in the middle of nowhere, that sort of thing, right? And they weren't coming back for a month, and all I had was the tools on my back, and I had a choice. Gum boy or a Baco, what would I take? That's a really tough one. It really is, because you get the better, I would say, better functionality of the gumbo. It's just, you know, the gum boy, the gum boy. You get the functionality of the gum boy. It works really well, but you can snap a blade, whereas the Baco is a little bit more robust. It would be a tough choice for me. I tend to like things that function well, and it's a question of the risk you're willing to take, right? There's how much risk is there? Is there a 5% chance of that blade breaking when you use it every time? Is there a 10%, 15, 20% break risk of the breaking? And how much of that risk can you mitigate by increased awareness, increased skill, and that sort of thing? Okay, so that's just all those questions you have to ask yourself. This is a better saw from a cutting wood with minimal energy point of view, in my experience anyway. But there's a risk of breaking it when you're breaking the blade. The handle will not break. I think that's pretty much invincible. right? But you can break a blade. I've done it. You can bend blades and they don't go straight again. And a straight blade doesn't cut, or a bent blade doesn't cut as well as a straight blade. Great thing about I didn't want to make this a Baco versus Silky, but this is like, you just can't talk about Silkies without talking about Bacos, because people, I know the comments are going to be, people are going to talk, I use a Baco because it bends and it doesn't break. Yeah, that's great. It bends and it doesn't break, and you can bend it back and it'll last a long time and that sort of stuff. Assuming you don't lose it, assuming you weren't an idiot like me and bought a green-handled Baco Laplander, which is designed to be lost, in my opinion. Anything green in a forest, right? I don't know why they even make them that way. It should be bright yellow or orange. But yeah, it's all a question of the risks you want to take on and that sort of thing. So I hope you found this interesting. I hope this helps you make your decision, right? These are great saws, and they're reliable and they last, but they're for people that know what they're doing, and they're for people that pay attention to what they're doing and understand how branches behave under load and what the risks of breaking a blade are and how to mitigate all those things. If you don't know anything about all that and don't want to learn anything about all that, you have very little experience, you want to throw something in your backpack, I wouldn't bring one of these. I'd bring a Baco Laplander or something like that, something fairly indestructible. But if you're the kind of person that likes efficiency and sort of excellent design and function and that sort of stuff, and you're comfortable with the risk, and you think you can mitigate the risk with your skill and your knowledge, I'd go with one of these. That's what I do anyway, because I just love the way they work. So I hope you have found this video interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and until next time, enjoy the outdoors on the cheap. Thanks for watching.